Having inserted Victor's presentation, we're running behind, but I hope you think that was worthwhile. I certainly did, and I'm glad we did it. I was happy to give him my time. Anyway, I was, for the month of December, I was in Thailand and in Korea. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand in 1962 to 64. I go back frequently to visit old friends, see how the country's changed, to keep my language ability up, and now that I'm a Georgist, to talk with universities and ministries. I don't pretend to think that what I'm about to show you is due to my talk, but it's nice to think that Thailand is moving to a 2-rate tax. Now, I delivered a paper at a conference in Bangkok for all East Asian countries, and that was the title page of my talk. But this is Thailand, just in case people don't really know where it is. And when I did my Peace Corps stint, I was way up in the center of the Golden Triangle, right up there, right near where the Mekong River and the nexus of Burma and Laos and Thailand come together. I was there for 2 years in a small village. I didn't speak any English at all. And it changed my life. Now, I'm going to take this off so I can get near the... Now, when people in Bangkok, who are about 1/10 of the population, and if you include the suburbs, about 1/5 of the population, they think of the country people as hillbillies. And this little list on the left kind of tells what the Bangkokians think of the rest of the country. Cambodia is all ruins and barbarians. Burma, the most hated enemy. Laos used to be our country. The Muslim South, terror and bombs. That's the 4 southern provinces that want to break away. Pattaya, vacation land, West Side Gulf, way to the south, and so on down the list. The northern region, the Bangkok people say it's always cold. Now, cold in Thailand, in the north, would mean this room temperature. Bangkok is always sultry and hot. It is unbearable. and I should also add that the country is got huge migration to Bangkok, and we'll see the problems there shortly. Here is a map of the population density, and you can see where there's relatively greater population in the northeast and the southern Muslim provinces, but it's really Bangkok that is crowded. One time when I was in the north, I talked with some young kids about where they'd like to go if they ever had a chance to travel. And I expected them to say, oh, I want to go to London or Paris or New York. You know where they wanted to go? Bangkok. They heard about this city with cars and traffic lights and so on. Anyway, Bangkok is where the population is and where the wealth is. And here it is again. It's more population density, but what it also shows is that Bangkok is sinking. That is to say, the building construction and sucking out water from the aquifer means that the whole city is sinking and is sinking rapidly, about a centimeter a year. And of course, in addition, to the earth sinking, the sea is rising. So Bangkok faces a real problem. But it's not the only city. Bangladesh, all of the seacoast cities in Asia, Calcutta, also, all of them are facing real problems. And here it is again, population density close up, and where the really low elevation is. Note that the dark area is 0 to 3 meters above sea level, and then from the pink area is 4 to 7 meters above sea level. So it's only really when you get outside of the Menam River, the Chao Phraya River basin, that you really get into land that isn't always flooding. And the flooded land causes huge problems, disease among other things. And here finally is what I'm going to talk about, the fact that the ministry, along with the Prime Minister's office, agreed that there should be a property tax, and that it should be a 2-rate property tax. Notice what's going to happen when it takes effect in January 2019. I will give you warning, a heads up, that that may not happen. I'll get to that shortly. But right now, the agricultural land has a maximum rate of 0.2%, and it's adjusted for the size of the parcel. The smaller parcels are exempt. The larger parcels will pay more. Then you see the residential parcels, the first home, the cheaper homes are exempt. And as you get into the more wealthy homes, mainly around Bangkok and in one other city, the rate goes up. Second homes will be taxed proportionately more. Commercial use, you can see the maximum rate is scheduled to be 2%. And again, based on the size of the business, it will go up proportionately. And notice vacant land. This is to discourage speculation. Vacant land, the maximum rate will be 5%. And used or leftover vacant land, 1 to 3 years. And this is going to go up as time goes on. Now, this is already after a good deal of negotiation, after several years, when the rates were actually pushed down. And in addition, even though this is scheduled to go into effect in January 2019, if all goes well, there's other taxes in the cards. And this will be on this is another picture of the same schedule. But in addition, there will be proposed windfall tax, so that it will capture those parcels that have a sudden increase in value due to development around rail, airport, whatever. And the Chinese are building a big rail line down from southern China, down through Laos, down to Bangkok, and to the port of Bangkok. Yeah, if this goes through, Thailand could have a radically modified tax structure. Now, the idea of property as a commodity is something that has an interesting history in Thailand. We know a little of this kind of history in the West. We know about the enclosure movement during the Tudor era of Britain, and how in the United States land first became a commodity with the settlement and the popes giving license to people to own property. And of course with the Dutch giving patroons title to property. But in Thailand, the idea was that land was all owned by the king. And the farmers usually paid for use of the land in usufruct. They would pay either a corvée labor or a percentage of their crop or something similar. I hope you'll give me a little more time because I gave up some time. But anyway, over time, due particularly to the advice of British and American consultants, land was gradually privatized. And you can see what happened. In the first part of the 19th century, all land was owned in usufruct. And as you trace it over the years, titles were given to parcels. And now, in the most recent time when changes were made, we've got title deeds pretty much like parcels in the West, or at least in the United States. And I want to suggest that one of the greatest, the most significant advisors to the changes in this regard were due to the advice of Woodrow Wilson's Secretary of State at the time, later Secretary of State, Wallace Sayre. And what's happened over the years is that Bangkok has grown as a result. The first years were, I can't think what, well, I guess the first one, smallest one is 1900, and now we've got the typical sprawl development, which is over this landscape, which is now about to go underwater. So here's another picture of Bangkok as it existed first in 1890 and now as it has grown. But because there's been no property tax at all, and what has happened over the years is people could build wherever they wanted, the city of Bangkok, which the Thais call Kilometer, is really kind of haphazard growth. Bangkok is one big traffic jam, and amidst all those traffic jams is land speculation. That word is Thai for sale, Thai, and the telephone number to call. But that's really not terribly different than things we know throughout the whole world. The boom bust in land prices and housing prices. This is a map that I just decided to throw in just because you are familiar with the practice where, well, we know what happened in 2008. That's when the crash came. But look at Bangkok again. It's one big sprawl. And to try to service that sprawl, they've built these highways that cut in and out of the city, just like Robert Moses would have loved and did love in New York City. There's Bangkok again. Now, you know from other presentations I've done that we know that if a city grows rationally, it would follow the typical Funtunen model, where the highest land value is at the center as a function of transportation and market access. And as you go out to the periphery, the land value falls, but not in Bangkok. Here's another one that I typically use. This is Salt Lake City. This was done before GIS. There's the land value in the center and out to the edge. And here's Portland, Oregon. And you can go to other cities, Taipei. Taipei, incidentally, uses land value taxation to a good extent. And here, just to throw in how the proportion of land value changes, is housing affordability in England and in Munich. And again, a London home sales map. And you can see again that the land value tends to fall as you go out to the edge. Now I'm going to switch slides now to the other picture of Seoul. I should add just before I do that, that this may not happen. Like many state governments, the Thai government requires, the Thai Constitution requires an initial reading by the Assembly in 1 year and a second reading in the following year. Well, the big landowners in Bangkok have now put up a good deal of pressure so that there may not be a second reading. And whether that will scuttle all the work that's come before is hard to know. But it's not a sure thing that the two-rate tax will go into effect in January of 2019. Now, since I'm a Mac user, let's see if I can get help to bring up the visit to Korea. Thanks, Dad. The other one, which is right behind it. Yeah, there. No, that was Victor's. No, that's Josh. Here it is, yeah. Okay, here's the beginning. We'll just go to beginning, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, start.
F5.
Okay, good. Well, here's South Korea. And you can see the different parts of South Korea as the Koreans see it. And Seoul is right up vulnerable to the border where the North Koreans purportedly have missiles. And there's 25 million people who live in Seoul. Here's the population density per square kilometer. Again, you can see the biggest population is in and around Seoul. And again, this is looking at the Korean Peninsula at night. You can see that in North Korea, there's practically no electric power at all, in contrast to China and South Korea. Now, 25% of the population in Korea is Christian. And this is due largely to one particular missionary named Archer Torrey, who has written a few Georgist books on land taxation and biblical economics, which are on the back table. Archer Torrey was tremendously influential during the time he was there for years as a missionary, and I understand his father was there before him. But as a result, the Christian community are really all Georgists. And what's interesting is that the political party in power right now are the the Georgist party, so to speak. Now, they got other fish to fry with North Korea breathing down their neck. But President Moon would like to implement land value taxation. Now, I was there, as I said, in December, and this fellow I'm eating dinner with is the director of and chief researcher of the Henry George Institute, Land and Liberty in Seoul. And some of us have met him who attended the IU conference in London a few years ago. Sun Chan-cho, he did his dissertation in China, but his English is pretty good. He naturally speaks good Chinese and Korean. He's a pretty sophisticated guy. And I wish I could get a website for the Korean Georgists, because then they would be much more integrated with the rest of the world community of Georgists. I haven't found somebody who's that facile in English, so we can get an English language Korean site. But I was there just before Christmas and had Christmas dinner with the Georgist Christians. And there they all are. That sign there says Henry George Institute on there. And notice I have my jacket on. Right here on the shelf are all their Georgist books. And shortly they're going to have their own building. But right now they're housed in someone's residence. But they're books in Korean, of either written by Koreans or translated. There's quite a few of them. And this fellow is most fluent in English, and he's a very strong Georgist and an advisor to the government. And here another picture of him. And here I'm just enjoying Christmas dinner. But what's most interesting, when this political party was elected to power, throwing out a very corrupt government where the daughter of the other party, Park, was deposed and is now in prison. Notice that the new government in power are all talking about how they're going to implement a Georgist tax regime. And here's President Moon Jae-in talking again about the election process and how we'll integrate the country too. And here's another woman, I think she's deputy minister, or I can't remember her name, but she's talking about implementing tax on rent seeking. And here's another picture of another government official, the same, and how they're going to curtail the sprawl development due to the fact that their UGB, urban growth boundary, didn't work and they abolished it. So there's hope, both in Thailand and in Korea. We have to wait for the Korean political party in power to take care of other problems they face. But we can expect there's a good chance that the Korean government will implement land value taxation, or at least start a phasing soon. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
Thank you very much for your showing talk. What does GIS stand for?
The what?
The GIS. What does it stand for?
Geographic Information Systems. It's land mapping using computer technology.
I had a Korean coworker in San Francisco, and I started talking to him about land value tax, and he said, "Oh, I know all about that. We learned about George in high school." So I don't know. He wasn't. I don't know if all Koreans learn about it in high school, but he said that the good private schools teach.
Yeah, he may have gone to a Christian school.
Yeah.
I should add that one academic Korean planner who got his doctorate at Penn, half the Korean population is named Kim. So this fellow's name is Professor Kim, and he just retired, but he told me that the Koreans probably have the best assessments of any country in the world. They assess land and buildings separately every 3 years. Yeah.
Well, I guess I get,
Wait a minute, get the,
I guess I get a bit boring, but I'd just like to have some indication if you've got any data or information with regarding the relative importance of property taxes, land or buildings, compared with the other systems of public revenue in either Korea or Thailand.
in Thailand, historically, the government has gotten most of its revenue from tariffs. They're both import and export. But in Korea, I'm not sure where the taxes come from. I have a feeling that there is some property tax in the conventional sense. I don't know what proportion of revenue it is, but now they, of course, they want to shift to a land value tax, seeing the merits of that, and having Archer Tory's influence to show the merits of the George's philosophy. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I worked in Korea in the late 90s, and the income and wage tax was very low, and I don't recall a sales tax at all. So I know they weren't drawing taxes from that. I don't know where their corporate tax rates were set, or how much they put tax on tariffs, although they were very much export-based, so they may have saw a lot of revenue from that sector.
I should say that the people that I talked with hate Samsung. They consider it a very abusive company. Yeah, Joe.
I just wondered if there's any possibility of the South Koreans talking to the North Koreans about
Yes, going on right now.
about accomplishing what they really want for their people, using LBT and using that sort of thing.
Yeah, Sun Chan Cho, Professor Cho, who, being a Christian, also uses the name Martin. He has talked with North Koreans a lot when he has visited China. China is the neutral ground for a lot of the North and South Koreans to be able to communicate with one another. Herb, did you have something, or?
Well, I was just going to ask what I think was already asked. Will the North Koreans follow the example of the South
Who
Koreans?
knows? Who knows? Yeah. Anyone else? How are we doing for time? I thought it was 3:30 that we're supposed to.
3:25 to 3:30.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yeah. We need a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We've been going pretty strong here. Thanks for your time.